Well, Carlos, I want to thank you for joining us today. There's a lot to unpack here, but you have found yourself, your family, locked in a bit of a battle with a school district there. If you could take us through where this all started.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Billy. So, this really just started with my son. Like most parents ask their kids, how was your day? I mean, that's a fairly common thing. Sometimes they divulge, other times they're, oh, we, had a really good play session or time at recess or lunch. But on this particular day, my 11-year-old son, who's in fifth grade, said you could tell he wanted to uh, there was something on his mind. He said it was just really weird, Dad. I said, well, what do you mean weird? He said, we had to uh, read this book. It was just weird. And so I kind of had to pull a little bit out of him on the details, but uh, he told me that he was forced to participate in this activity and read along and watching a video regarding a book called My Shadow is Pink. And, at the time I had no knowledge about the book. I was aware uh, because our son has participated in this mentorship program. So I was familiar with this mentorship program. So I should back up and let you know that uh, at our elementary school, they pair the fifth graders with the kindergartners, and they spend about an hour a week together doing different things. Usually, it's out on the playground or reading books that the 5-year-old kindergartners choose, and it's a great program. He often talked about what they did, and so I was familiar with that, but not any of the other details surrounding this book. And so like most parents, I kind of wanted to get more out of him. We didn't have a lot of time because we were on a drive, just driving to his dentist appointment. But he did give me the name of the book that this teacher, his fifth grade teacher, read in class. And so while he was getting his teeth checked, I was on the phone, Googling the book. And in the, 25 minutes, 45 minutes that he was in this dentist appointment, I quickly realized that this book was centered around gender ideology, and I was pretty upset about it. And he was already upset about it, but I called my wife and let her know. And of course, she did the same thing. She started researching the book, and anybody that does that will come to the same conclusion that this book is a complex topic. So, we're wondering not only why was it being read in a fifth grade class, but certainly why were they also making this a part of a weekly activity with their kindergarten buddy class. So the more we learned, the more upsetting it became. Of course, we wrote the teacher that same night. We sent an email. We have good dialogue with the teacher. I know this fifth grade teacher well. We have a lot of communication. We've never had any issues up to this point with anything like this with this particular fifth grade teacher. Of course, the kindergarten teacher, I didn't have any knowledge of her. Um, but the response that we got from the teacher was immediate, that it had nothing to do with gender, that this was just an activity and kind of a feel good. We just want the kids to, play with chalk. So I should also kind of describe exactly what they did. So the fifth grade teacher read the book to the fifth graders just with the fifth grade class. And then they walked the kids over to the kindergartner class, and then together they paired up with their buddies and they played the video narration of the same book.
So basically, they're taking the teachers reading it with the fifth graders, instructing the fifth graders, and then the buddy system is one I would imagine where the kindergartners look up to the fifth graders in some way. They see them as sort of mini authority figures or other kids that they could aspire to be, and now they're bringing those fifth graders in to do this activity with the kindergartners now. Just so I understand how the little power structures with the kids and the teachers work here. Okay, continue.
Spot on. Absolutely, Billy. Yeah. So these kids look up to the fifth graders. I mean, that by design, I mean, that's part of the program. These are 5-year olds that are brand new at the school, and it's a great program because they've got like an older brother, older sister that they look up to that kind of helps them navigate this new world they're in, right? I mean, it's their first time in school. Um, but in this case, yes, they're helping to disseminate a very controversial, complex topic to a very smaller, younger brother, younger sister, right? So
But the
that's
teacher
what
told you there was nothing. The teacher told you in the initial response that this didn't have to do with gender identity, correct? That it wasn't what you thought it was.
very directly emailed back and said, uh, "This has nothing to do with gender." And of course, I wrote back about an hour later and said, "We disagree." And then I escalated this to the principal. My wife and I together, we moved this up to the principal just to understand more about the how and the why. Um, and we just wanted to move on from having a debate around whether the book had to do with gender. We kind of shifted to trying to understand more, but also how do we not be a part of this going forward?
And how okay, so you escalated to the principal, and Kayla, I want to come to you in a minute on once we hear this part of it. What is the principal's? I assume you were thinking, okay, we're going to make more headway here. What was the principal's reaction to you coming and voicing concern?
Yeah, so just to before we got it took a couple weeks to have a one-on-one conversation with the principal. So initially, she didn't return my calls. She eventually did, but there was some written dialogue that was ignored uh, directly by the principal. What ended up happening is we had the superintendent respond on behalf of the school and the principal. So we didn't ask to speak with the superintendent immediately. We were trying to have a conversation with the principal, but the superintendent intervened and essentially said, your your issue is with the state legislature, that this is something that is, falls within their uh, directive really to teach, and that we really had our battle was with not with them but with the state legislature. And that was similar to the conversation that we had with the principal. When I eventually was able to have a phone call with her, it was very similar to the email dialogue I had with the teacher. She, quote unquote, said there's no mention of gender in this book, and my response was, I agree with you, but when you have the sights and the sounds and the way this story is being told, you don't need the word gender. In fact, why would you use the word gender? A 5-year-old's not going to understand the word gender. It's kind of painting everything, uh, for the intended audience, which I thought was even more despicable. But we didn't disagree. We did not agree on that. I was expecting that phone call to be more reconciliatory, or there would be some type of acknowledgement. There absolutely was not. In fact, it turned into her asking more questions about why I posted a video on social media, just asking other parents and just kind of putting other parents on notice that this was occurring. It turned into her kind of wanting to investigate that, and also her alleging that somehow me speaking out on this was making teachers feel unsafe, which was shocking to me at the time. I couldn't believe that she was trying to make me feel like somehow me wanting to not have our kids participate in this was somehow creating a situation where teachers were now not feeling safe. And uh, yeah, that was really
Yeah.
frustrating.
I want to stop for a moment and ask Kayla, what is your reaction to that part of the story? Hearing those aspects, a parent is reaching out to the school saying, "We have an issue with this. We want to address it." And the response purportedly is not one really addressing it. It seems quite different from that. How do you react to that?
It's very problematic, both as a parent myself, but also from a legal perspective. Parents have the right to raise their children according to their own beliefs and values, and especially when religious faith comes into play. And so, for a school to say, not only do we know better than you, but also we're not going to tell you when this happens, we're not going to let you opt out. The principal was also very clear that this situation would happen again. The district is going to continue to teach books and activities on these topics about gender, and will refuse to opt out in the future, even in the current school year. And so that's very problematic from a legal standpoint. And another element of all this that also violates the Constitution, specifically the First Amendment, is this activity that Carlos's son was forced to do. So not only did he have to see the book with his kindergarten buddy, but then he had to go outside and ask his kindergarten buddy, what color represents you? And then chalk the shadow of the 5-year-old using that color. And that is compelled speech under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court's always been very clear that students can't be forced to be a mouthpiece or to speak messages that go against their conscience. And that's exactly what happened to Carlos's son.
You know, Carlos, coming back to you on that in light of what was just said, it's interesting. So you go to them, you're having this back and forth. It sounds like there were a couple of things you were looking for. A, you were looking for an assurance maybe that this wasn't going to happen again. You weren't going to get that, but being notified that this was going to happen so that you could opt out, right? That was something that you were looking for when you approached that part of the conversation and asked to be opted out and to be notified. What reaction did you get from the district?
So I actually asked the principal directly, could this situation happen again? And she very directly said, absolutely. That the teachers have discretion. She kind of pushed things back down to the teachers having the ability to choose a number of different books. It's their call. But I said, I kind of really wanted to focus on, well, let's just talk about this book, this situation, because I know there's a huge spectrum of books out there, and we're just talking about this book. Could this happen again? And she said yes, and she again directed me to the state legislature, and then it was really frustrating. So, um, backing up a little bit, by the time I spoke to her, we were already kind of pulled into, just to just to explain, my wife and I are longstanding members of the community. We volunteer at the school. Both of us have been in the classrooms volunteering. We've done volunteers with field trips. We've donated every year to the PTA. My wife knows everybody there at that school, right? Either from close or just with our kids going through the school. I also coach in the community, so um, I would say that we're pretty involved in the school, and so we felt like that we thought we would have a little bit more honesty in some of these conversations around whether or not we could just choose not to participate. It wasn't not known that we were obviously a Christian family, that we objected to certain things. There was an instance about a year and a half prior to this where there was the school district promoted a, an event that was very controversial with uh, uh, an event that was hosted by the LGBT community, and we didn't want to participate in that. We made it clear. My wife sent an email to the school and to the district specifically asking that if there was anything that was against our belief, that we did not want to participate. So we thought that there could be just a misstep in the formality around forms. So we submitted one form, and then we submitted a second form that was a different format, but very, very, very specific as to the types of things that we did not want to participate in, and we were denied formally twice, right? I mean, we got the district letterhead with reference to, all kinds of legal, municipal I'm not a lawyer, but it just was very formal. Like, no, you cannot opt out. You can only opt out of health ed, which is the day they talk about, it's a sex ed day, right? But the problem is they're teaching this type of stuff in a lot of different ways. And this is only in my conversations from talking to other parents since, that this 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 type of thing is kind of woven in a lot of different ways through a lot of different grade levels and a lot of different formats. It's complicated. So we were trying to get an opt out. We just didn't want to participate. But
Sure.
community has since kind of put us in this category where suddenly we've been called racist, we've been called bigots, it's become even a attachment to like political stuff. And we're just simply saying, no, no, we just don't want our kids to hear this, and we just want to be notified, and we want to be able to have a choice. But it's gone all this other way, and it's gotten ugly. Our kids have been bullied. My wife had a lot of moms going after her on social. It's gotten really bad, and
You
we've
you
since had.
guys received threats, correct? Both by phone, in person, from people in the
Yes, sir.
community?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, yeah, I was threatened directly by one of the teachers' husbands. Uh, a lot of harassment, direct and indirect. People that we've known that our kids have gone to school with since preschool. Those friendships are not there because suddenly we're labeled as racist, anti-LGBT, all this stuff, when we're really just saying we don't want to participate.
You wanna
And
raise your kids how you wanna raise your kids. This isn't complicated, but a lot of people, they would bow out of this, or they would cave, because what you're describing is an extraordinary amount of pressure, not only on you, on the kids as well. What has led you to say, no, I'm not going to cave in? You've now filed, you filed a complaint, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Kayla, I'll come back to you to help explain that. But what has made you say, no, we're not going to give up on this? We're going to stand up for what we believe is right.
right, well, we're certainly. It's unfortunate that it's gone to this point, but we've been backed up into a corner. Like I said, we tried to use every form, every request. I mean, a lot of emails back and forth, uh, to just say that we just want the ability to be not a part of it, and we just want to be notified, and we want to have the ability to opt out. But we've been denied twice. But it's progressed. I mean, we had a real open mind on using. I even offered to come in and have a sit down with the principal. That never happened. I believe in communication. I mean, this is a problem. Let's solve it. Let's talk about it. But the district is just heavy-handed with the letters, and you're not going to have the opportunity to do this. It's going to happen again. This is within our, not only. I mean, the way they put it out is, not only is it within our legal right to teach this to your kid, but we're required to. So if you have an issue with it, your issue is not with us. Your issue is with the state. You need to go up to Sacramento, and your battle's there. And
Yeah, good
initially,
luck fighting that battle on your own, right?
yeah, and I'm not. It This is all so new to me. I've
Yeah.
since spoken with a lot of other parents that have not been surprised in that response, because that's a reputation this district apparently has, and the way they respond to issues, not only with this, but a lot of other parental issues. But for a moment there, I thought, well, shoot, my oldest has got one more year. Our boys are strong. I think they're going to be able to get through it somehow. But when the PTA and the school, they actually organized a Pink Out the Hate Day. Okay. So they literally took a day that was intended to show appreciation for the teachers, and they turned it into a Pink Out the Hate Day with reference to the book. Right. And that ended up being, that was it for our boys, because it immediately, you got the pinks versus everybody else. And of course, everybody that wore pink that day, in our child's eyes, was kids that were against them. And we've had, um, our kids have never had issues like that. I mean, they've been a lot of friends, and even kids that that they've known since they've gone to preschool since 2 years old, telling them the Bible's not real. All of a sudden, it became very divisive. It still is, unfortunately.
And painful. I mean, this sounds incredibly painful. And, as you're describing it, Kayla, I want to come to you because you filed a complaint. You filed a motion for preliminary injunction. For those who don't know, what does that mean? What are you looking for here?
We are looking for accountability and change. The district is wrong. It is required to provide opt outs under the Constitution and also under state law. California law specifically says that if there's material that is against someone's religious beliefs, they do have the right to opt out. And the district is claiming that only applies in the context of one sex ed unit, but that's just their interpretation and it's not correct. So that's why we're in federal court. We filed a complaint and also a motion for a preliminary injunction, as you mentioned, and that's really important here because it's asking for the court to intervene quickly. Lawsuits can take a long time; they can take multiple years, and obviously these kids need relief now. The kids that are still at the school need to know that they're going to have notice and opt-outs going forward. So we've asked the court to step in and provide that relief quickly. And to Carlos's point about speaking with other parents, it's been inspiring for me to see his family's willingness to stand up because it might be easier to just move on from all of this, but instead they don't want this to happen to anyone else. They really care deeply about their community, about their friends and neighbors. And so for all of those who maybe don't have a voice, their courage to speak up and to stand up for what's right, I think is going to make a difference for a lot of other families.
Carlos, we have about 30 seconds here. Any final words, things you want to drive home, maybe we didn't get to that you feel like are important here in this case?
Yeah, just to kind of, you know, continue with what Kayla just said, that this is really about those that don't have a voice in this, and for the parents that probably are unaware, I would encourage parents, especially in this district, to really dig into the details on this. This really involves uh, anybody, not just Christians, but anybody, any background, religious or non religious. If you believe that you're the best uh, decision maker for your young child, then you care about this, absolutely care about this, because um, it's amazing that this is being done, and it's being done in a way that's absolutely non-transparent. This school puts out a lot of communication on a lot of things, and they allow opt-outs for a lot of different things. They accommodate which is fantastic. I mean, they do a great job of accommodating different things for different people, but for some reason, this one, they don't want to do that. And so I would encourage parents to really get informed on that and ask specific questions. And we hope that the court, does what we know they should do for what is right.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on, breaking this all down. We'll continue to cover this story as new developments unfold. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.